Hi, and welcome to Entrepreneurship Now. I am your host, LaShay LaRue. For those of you who are new, who have never seen this podcast before, you are in for a treat because today we are talking about having multiple streams of income. Okay. And I have a phenomenal serial entrepreneur here today, and she is going to share her story and the concept and the mission behind Entrepreneurship Now. It's really to tell that entrepreneur story. It's to show you guys that entrepreneurship is a journey. There are some struggles, but it is so incredibly worth it. We are going to talk about the nitty gritty of what it takes in order to be an entrepreneur now. So, without further ado, I would love to introduce Miss Nicole Brown. And please introduce yourself and tell everyone a little bit more about you and your business.
Yes, my name is Nicole Brown. I own several businesses. I own a childcare called Nikki's Christian Daycare and Learning Center, of which we just rebranded. It is Nikki's Christian Academy, and I'll talk a little bit more about the rebrand later. I also have a boutique called Nikki B. Jules Boutique in our outlet mall out here in Virginia. And then I also have a coaching program. I coach women and men who want to be the first entrepreneur success in their family, even if they've been paralyzed by fear. So I do those businesses. And also my husband and I are pastors of a church called Life Connect Community Church, also in Woodbridge, Virginia, of which we started during COVID. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, we lived on the edge on that one. So.
I love it. I love it though. And that's why I'm so happy to have you here because you were the perfect person for this topic. So often we hear these gurus or these business coaches, and they say you have to focus on one thing, niche down to one specific thing. And although there is truth in that, I do believe it's really important to have multiple streams of income because if it's one thing we've learned from COVID is that
Yep.
things change. The only guarantee and the only constant is change, right?
Yep.
So things can be going perfect for your business, and at any given time, they can change. So I'm happy to have you here to talk about how you were able to develop these multiple streams of income. So tell me a little bit more. What was your inspiration and how did you get started with each of those businesses?
In childcare, I started actually after high school. You know, when you could get out of school early and you do that, go as a senior, you go to school half a day and then you
Yes.
get a job.
Yes.
So I decided to work at a in-home daycare. My sister, who's 13 years younger than me, she was in this daycare, and I would work there after lunch every day. And when I would go there, the owner would have the things for me to do, and she would always tell me, when you come, I'm going to go to lunch with my girlfriends. I'm going to get my nails done, my hair done. And I'm like, I need this in my life when I graduate. Like, I love this. So in 93, I moved to Woodbridge, Virginia from Maryland, and I had the ability to start a in-home daycare. From that, it grew. And from there, for 13 years, I did in-home, and I would hire people to work for me, even as an in-home business. I remember my licensing inspector told me, you need to open a daycare center. You have people working for you. Most in-home people don't have staff. It's just them and a group of kids, and that's it. So I ran my in-home business as if I was already at a corporate level. In 2006, I opened my first daycare center in fear because I was sitting in the middle of 3 corporate daycare centers within a 2-mile radius. And
Wow.
I'm thinking, how do I set apart from these corporate daycare centers with this little itty bitty home? You know, it was a house that was a commercial space. I could have 64 kids. And I was scared to do it, but I did it. And honestly, the thing that set us apart, of course, it was a Christian-based daycare. And I was even afraid to even say that because I didn't know if I would be accepted in the community. And sure enough, we launched that, we grew. And then maybe 2010 is when I started I love jewelry. And I had access to get jewelry at wholesale prices. I would go to all these jewelry parties and $100 for like a pair of earrings like this. And I'm like, yo, I can't, it's costume jewelry. So one of my girlfriends said, hey, why don't you start selling jewelry? So I invested, I remember $700. And my husband, like, why are you taking this money and investing it? I hosted at my home an all-white party, invited family, friends, and made $2,400. So
Whoa.
my husband realized, so you took that 700, made that money back, and made a profit. He's like, sell all the jewelry you want. So
Isn't that funny how that works?
yes,
And I think that's important to highlight though, because a lot of times when we have these ideas of what we want to do as far as business, people have opinions, right? The people around you, as much as they love you, I know your husband
yes,
loves you. He loves you,
hmm
right? You wouldn't have married him if he didn't. But people have these opinions, and sometimes, if we let them get in our heads and add on to the self
yeah,
doubt we're already dealing with, we will,
exactly.
like you said, we will be paralyzed by that fear and
hmm
never actually take action. But as your story shows, by overcoming that fear, that's where success comes from. It doesn't come from
Absolutely.
never being afraid, right? It comes
hmm
from overcoming that fear and doing it anyway. And because you
Yeah,
did it anyway, you made some money,
yeah.
okay? And husband was like, more
He
of
said,
that.
sell all you
Do
want at this
all of that.
point. Yeah, he was like,
I
that
love
one
it.
investment got you that. And then the women from there, I grew from there. I went from a kiosk in the mall. And then, like you said, like we're going to talk about, but during COVID, I did it in 2019, October 2019. I had one of those little carts in the mall. Then COVID hit and I closed down from that. Um, and then time went on and
Hey, let's back up really quick,
yeah.
really quick. Tell me about that transition and how did you manage all of this? Because I really want the audience to have some actionable steps. If you do have multiple things that you want to do,
hmm
how do you make that happen? So at this point in time, you've got a brick and mortar now for
Yep.
daycare. And then you started the jewelry business. You were doing
hmm
individual parties. So how did you make that transition from doing the at-home parties into an actual kiosk? What did you have to do in order to secure that spot?
Well, the lady that was in charge of the kiosk, I called the number that was on the cart one day at the mall, and she was like, hey, come on, you can have this cart. So I applied. I got it, and it did well. October, it was almost Christmas time. Like you said, I advertised it. People came to see me at the cart. They were so excited for me. They said
Now, how did you advertise? How did you advertise that
social
business?
media,
Okay.
social media every day that I worked at the kiosk. And that is the one thing I've learned. As much as in business, I can't be at all of them at one time.
Mhm.
However, as the face of your business, people want to see you at some point,
Right.
So when I would be at the kiosk, I would go live. I would say, hey guys, I'm here today until such and such time. If you want to come hang out with me, within 30 minutes, people would show up. Hey, I saw you were here. So social media was a very big thing for me in getting the people to come, especially when I was working the kiosk.
I love that. So there are a few things that I want to highlight that you said. So first off, you took action, right? That was the first
hmm
thing that you did. You didn't necessarily have to do a whole lot of research. You looked at the spot, you picked up your phone, you called the
Yep.
number. Guys, it can really be that simple. If there are
Yep.
things that you're wanting to do, pick up the phone, make the phone call. So many of us listen to the people online who tell us that
hmm
online is all you have to do, but there's a combination that you need, right? There's a
hmm
world happening around us. And by interacting with that world, you can combine it with social media and become very successful, just like
Yes.
Ms. Brown has done. She picked up the phone, she made that phone call, she got that physical place. And once she got the physical place,
Yeah.
in order for her to manage these different businesses, she had to create a system that didn't require her to physically be at all places at all times. But she capitalized off of the time that she was there and make
hmm
sure that her social presence shows her presence,
Yes.
right? A lot of
That's good.
people are afraid to put their face out there
Oh
as a
my
part of
gosh.
their business. But, I have a small story about that. I was that way for a while because I came from corporate world. So in the corporate world, you learn to kind of lessen yourself a little bit, let your
Mhm.
work speak for you. You really don't want to be the face of anything because you're behind a name. And when I branched off on my own, I was still hesitant to put my face out there because it was like, who's going to want to do business with a young Black girl? I don't want people to think that I don't have experience because you can visually see that I'm young, but I've got a resume longer than most people twice my age.
Mhm.
I've been in the industry for over 15 years. I've helped over 115,000 companies in order to grow their business. So I I was a little hesitant, even though I knew I had all that experience. And once I started putting my face out there and
Yeah.
putting my face on the classes that I was doing, I actually had several people say, I signed up just because I saw your picture and I knew
Yeah.
that you were going to understand what I'm going through and have a different
Mhm.
perspective than a lot of what's out there. So I think
Yes.
that's really important for those of you who are out there watching. It's okay to put yourself out there, don't be
Absolutely.
afraid of the feedback. There are going to be people with negative feedback, whether you put your
Mhm.
face out there or not. You can't please everybody, and there's no
Yeah.
need to try. But if a person does not, and that's what I had to realize, if a person doesn't want to do business with me because they see my face, why on earth would I want to do business with them?
Exactly. Yeah.
On earth would I even want to be in the room with them, right? So if
Mhm.
that pushes them away, great. Thank you for saving
Thank
me
you.
that
Right.
awkward conversation
Yeah.
later on when we
Mhm.
have to learn that we are just not compatible. So don't be afraid to put your face out there. Okay.
That's right.
All
Even
right.
even on the
So,
side note to that, now that a
mhm,
little bit on that topic, when my husband and I started our church, we just had the church sign on the corner, and he was like, I don't know what I should put on the front. I said, put a banner with our face on it. We've been in this community for over 30 years. And sure enough, when people come and visit, we always say, how did you hear about us? I was at the Costco gas station, looked up, saw the picture, and that's why I came. I was at the
right.
7-Eleven, saw the picture, that's why I came. So it's people are drawn to what, at least
Mhm.
if they can get a glimpse before they even actually get that full introduction of you. But don't be afraid to show up as yourself, because that way people will consistently know what they see online is what they see when they act, is what they get when they actually meet you as well. So I am really big at don't get discouraged about what you look like. You know, we all got flaws, you know what I mean? We can think of every
Mhm.
reason why we don't want to show up, but people are
Mhm.
drawn to when you show up as yourself and represent your business or whatever it is that you do.
And that's so true. And I know for me, I also had dealt with at one phase I gained weight. So I'm
Mhm.
bigger now than I was 5 years ago, right? Which doesn't seem like a long time, but it feels close enough to where I felt a way about that. And I was very hesitant for a while as well to really be as active on social media, to turn on the camera and do the reels and things like that, because I turn on the camera and be like, ooh, where did all that extra come from? But you know what? I'm human, right? We're
Mhm.
all human. And don't worry about how other people look with
Yeah.
filters. And I think
Mhm.
that's the real key, right? Normally, when we feel away, it's usually because we're looking in comparison to someone with a glam
Yeah.
squad who, has a fitness instructor and a diet program and all this other stuff going on. Just do it. Just turn
Yeah.
on the camera and let that be motivation. If you don't like it enough that it makes you
You
not want to
can
do
yeah,
it anyway, and then do something about the weight. And that's the
that's
mindset
right.
that I had to get myself into, that I can't let whatever insecurities that I have or whatever imperfections that I see
Mhm.
within myself stop me from taking action.
Yeah.
Only through taking action can I accomplish my goals. I actually have a sign on my desk that says progress, not perfection. And I
Yeah,
know when I
that's
saw it,
good.
I was like, oh my goodness, Lord, you knew that I needed this because I have that syndrome, perfectionism, and it really is a
Mhm.
syndrome. And I'll get down rabbit holes and I'll be so hard on myself. I am usually my worst critic, like most people. And I
Mhm.
have this on my desk to remind me that the goal is not perfection, right?
Yeah,
The goal is the journey, in my personal opinion. So
that's right.
instead of focusing on perfection, I need to focus on enjoying this journey because I don't believe that entrepreneurship is a destination. It's a
Mm-mm.
process.
It
It's going
is.
to grow. Just like you started in a house, then you
Mhm.
got a physical venue, right?
Yeah.
Then you added on an additional service. So I want to talk a little bit more about that
Mhm.
because you also transitioned outside of just those two businesses, right? You had
Yeah.
several other things going on. So tell me a little bit more about how the coaching came to be and starting the ministry. Tell me about that journey.
I took in 2017, Steve Harvey had a school of business in 2017, and I went to one of his conferences. 2016, I went, and they talked a lot about you could do a entrepreneur, like a business journey or a self journey, meaning for people who maybe worked in corporate and who were struggling with why they're not getting promoted, then people who had a business idea or wanted to do better in business, social media, all those things. So I went to his conference, and a lady gave her testimonial about how she did, so she loved being there, how it helped her. She went from being, from the from the front office to a corner office, and she just grew her whole business. But it was about how she saw herself. So I joined the program, and I remember standing up because prior to that, I was already struggling in my childcare business. And
Mm.
I'm like, I need something different. I was in the room with like minded people who were, one lady drove like cross country to be there. She was like, my husband didn't believe in what I was doing, but I had to get here. So I was in the room with like minded people. And I remember they said the amount for the program was going to be like $500 a month. And I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, where am I going to find this money? So it was
Mhm.
like, if you want to join this program, stand up. Man, I cried. One of my best friends was with me. I was crying. And she was like, you got this. You need this. But everything I learned from that, at that point, I committed that by the time I finished this program, my business was going to make $1 million. That was
Mhm.
the goal when I joined. I took some of the things that I learned in the program, I incorporated it. At the end of the program, on my way for the graduation, I got an email that said, "Can you? What would you like to share on the panel if given the opportunity?" So I wrote this whole thing and said, "Oh, I would share how I finally made $1 million in my business." And I said some other stuff. By the time I got off the plane, it said, "Congratulations, Nicole Brown. You will be on the panel at the Steve Harvey, blah, blah, blah." So I'm
Oh,
sitting there like, oh my gosh. So I got to share my story
okay.
of that. So from that, then I went and did the John Maxwell leadership certification, and I got that. And so from there, I wanted to help people. I initially thought I was going to be a coach to help people launch a childcare business.
Okay.
So one of my girlfriends, the same one that went to me with me to the Steve Harvey thing, said, set a date. We're going to host an event. I did a lunch and learn for what I thought were just going to be childcare providers, and all type of business people came. And
Oh,
they
wow.
were like, we want to know, how do you sustain doing different levels in your business? So they wanted to know more. So that's how I got into the whole business coaching. Because in 2010, to give you a little real backstory,
Yeah, tell me.
when I opened my daycare center, I didn't know how to do payroll, right? So I got
Wow.
a payroll company, and they would send me letters quarterly and say, hey, keep this for your record. So 2010, an IRS officer showed up at my business and said, Nicole, do you know why I'm here? I said, I have no idea. She said, we've been sending you letters. So I turned around. It was a stack of IRS letters that I never opened. I said, oh,
Oh,
these? And she said, yeah. She said, you owe Oh my gosh, it felt like a lifetime of money in IRS payroll taxes. She said,
Oh,
"You have not paid your payroll taxes." And I said, "I have." They get every month they gave me this letter, and this part said, "Keep for your records." Behind it was the thing that I was supposed to mail off my payroll taxes, and I had no idea.
oh no.
From that point, they garnished my business wages, my personal wages. I thought I would never get out of that hole.
Oh wow.
And the payroll company I used, they were a real small one, but I mean I chose the cheapest one because I was new. I didn't know what to do. And time went on, the IRS were like, "We're gonna shut you down, we're gonna do this to you." I mean, all kinds of things. It is 2024 and we are still standing. By the
Amen.
grace of God, I just did a
Amen.
payment plan, learn from your mistakes, and don't do it again. Take a licking
And you
and
know
keep
what?
on
I think
ticking.
that's really important because that, I think, by anybody's standard, is a very traumatic and very scary
Mhm.
place to be. I can only imagine being in a place where you're doing well, but then you have something like that bring you down to
Yeah,
earth, right?
yeah.
And what do you do? And I can imagine the overwhelming emotions that you
Mhm.
would have to deal with in that moment. But one thing you did not do is tuck tail and run.
Yeah.
That is one thing you did not do.
Mhm.
And I say that to the audience because at any given point in your entrepreneurial journey, you can have something that seems so detrimental that happens. The only time that it's ever going to break you and you are ever going to fail
Mhm.
is if you give up. If you
Yes.
just come up with a plan and work that plan,
Mhm.
you will see to the other side, but you have to stay with it, right? You
Yeah.
have to create that plan. I always hear people say, I'm a trust in God and God's going to figure it out. Well, the Bible also says faith without works
Faith
is
without
dead.
work is dead.
So, you know, that's my favorite scripture.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of work, not even a little, probably a little bit of work that you have to
Yes.
do in order for the Lord to bless your work, in
Yep.
order for Him to bless your hands and bless your
Mhm.
steps. You have to take action in order for you to get to the other side.
That's
So
right.
I love that you shared that. Thank you so much for being so
Mhm.
transparent with our audience because I want you guys to know, entrepreneurship is not glitz and glam. It's not pretty all the time. It's not
No.
yachts and trips and lunch whenever you want to. It's not. I mean,
Mm-mm.
at some points, yes, it very well can be. But what it is a process. It's a
Yeah.
journey. No entrepreneur started yesterday and became a
Mhm.
millionaire tomorrow. A broke
No.
clock is right twice a day. So just
Yep.
because you see someone on Instagram or TikTok and they're living that quote unquote entrepreneur's
Mhm.
life and we who wouldn't want that, right? Who wouldn't
Yes.
want to be able to do less and get more? We all would like
We
that,
all
but
want that.
true
Yep.
entrepreneurship takes the complete opposite. You got to do a whole lot and you're probably going to get a little
A
bit
little
less. But
bit.
each
Yep.
extra step that you take, each amount of work that you do, it's you planting seeds that you will be
Yes.
able to harvest over time, a couple months from now, a year
That's
from now, a
right.
decade from now, right? And then you will
Mhm.
be in the place where all you got to do is just water it occasionally, right? And you're
Yep.
able to eat and feed yourself and your family and even your friends because of these seeds that you have
Yep.
sown throughout this journey. So don't let, if you're in a place right now with your business and you're really stressed and overwhelmed and you don't know how you're going to keep the lights on, don't let that defeat you.
That's
And
right.
another thing that I love that you said is that you sought help. You went and you got a coach. You
Yes.
had a mission. You knew what it was that you
Mhm.
wanted to do, and you found someone who
Yep.
can give you a roadmap because it was an investment into your future.
That's
And I
right.
want to say that to you guys. That is the beauty of coaching. And I don't say that just because I am a business coach. I
Mhm.
say that because it is true. I am a business coach. who also, just like you,
Yeah.
bought a business program, right, to
Mhm.
help me systematize my business so that I could scale, so that I could grow, so that I could overcome some of those hurdles. Sometimes you need someone that can give you ideas that you never had before, right?
That's
Or
right.
expose you to new information that you didn't know was out there that can spark an idea within you. Someone who
Yeah.
can help you avoid certain aspects of the trial and error phase of entrepreneurship. Yeah, there are going to be some hurdles, even if you have all the education in the world, but you can
Yeah.
eliminate a lot of the simple mistakes that people make when they go into entrepreneurship by getting yourself a coach in whatever area that you're trying to
Yeah.
learn. They are worth their weight in gold, and you can't look at it as, you know, a cost that you'll do when you finally start making money, right? No,
Mhm.
you can't look at it that
Mhm.
way because you're never going to get to that point
Yeah.
where you are making the money if you do not first invest in yourself. It is the cost of business. My
Yeah.
business would not be where it is right now. I would not be on this podcast right now with you guys talking to you, or have this lovely millionaire on the phone with me right now if it wasn't for me making that investment into myself
Yeah.
and my business. So I'll leave you guys with that, and I'll turn it back over to Miss Brown. Finish telling me about your story and how you then branched into, from the coaching as well, having a business with your husband, because I know that must be fun too.
Yeah. Yes. So once I launched the coaching program, and it was, and people actually joined, because then you wonder who wants to listen. But you know what people love is transparency. They love when you're able to tell them, like you are doing today. I commend you for wanting to tell people not just everything good, because some days is more good. I mean, more bad than good. There's
Yeah,
seasons, right? But we
yeah,
don't give up. But we had an opportunity to start a ministry, and I remember talking it over with my husband, and saying, "Hey, it's your time, it's your time." And okay, well, how do I do this? And another pastor just affirmed him and said, "Hey, it's time for you to do this." And I remember talking to him. He shares this story all the time. I said, "Okay, what's the brand colors? What's the color of the church? How are we going to tell people about the church? What are you going to do here?" So coaching him through the process of how to do all that. And then he also has an accounting business. So he has a fast track accounting. So he's full-time ministry, full-time business himself. But doing ministry together, we definitely could do it in 2020 than we could in 92 and 93 when we had our kids. We have grown adult kids. We have three. A son who he plays basketball with his wife in Poland. I have a daughter who's 26, she'll be 27, and she's a director at one of my schools. And I have a daughter who's about to be 24, and she's an esthetician. She does lash tech. She's a lash tech. And all of them are entrepreneurs in their own way. So even in all of that, in doing business, I not only do it just for me, but I do it as a legacy to my family. I want my children to not only just, they all went to college, they have college degrees, but they're also doing the things that they love. One is a personal stylist. She's also the one that's the director of my school. And those in my coaching program, I allow her to teach them how to show up in the workplace, on social media, and then they hire her as a personal stylist. That's how you collab, even in business,
mhm,
with your families, to bring their gifts and talents that other people need as influencers, because you're at a place where you've been certain places. So you collab with someone, and you are able to open a door for so many other people that never get the opportunity to be on another platform. So that
mhm.
is one of the other things I love about my husband and I being in ministry together. We are able to, people who join my coaching program, they join my church. So it like all works together. Then their children go to my daycare. They shop at my boutique. So everything flows together if you are a person of great influence, though.
And you know what? So you actually already kind of entered into another question that I was going to ask. It's,
Mhm.
how do you build a community around your brand, right? How do you implement that? How do you get people to convert from coaching program to ministry to daycare? What kind of tactics do you use for that?
I don't even know if there is an actual tactic for it. I think it's just being yourself. And
Well, you have to be letting them know, right, that you have
yes,
all these
so I
different
do
things
tell
going
them,
on.
so they know by what I say, what I do, how I show up. I mean, they know me. I love bling. I love purple hair. So
Mhm.
it's like they know the things that, in my brand, but also too how I show up.
Right,
So, if I'm at church, they say, "Oh man, where can I get that from?" Well, you can get it from my boutique. You know what I mean? So
right.
they my daycare, we were doing my husband did a basketball camp and wanted basketball hoops. So my daycare center gave the church basketball hoops. So what does that do? It allows them to say this portion of the basketball camp was sponsored by Nikki's Christian Daycare. So
Got
you
it.
take the business and then you incorporate it in the ministry, and you also pour it back out to the people, and they know what you do and what you're a part of and things like that. So it's really all been word of mouth. I've been in this community 31 years, but it started with daycare. Then it went into the kiosk at the mall. So when you're in the mall and everybody, oh my God, Miss Nikki, I remember her daycare. So, but then when that kiosk closed, I'm gonna give you a little bit of that history. During COVID, I had the opportunity. The lady who opened the kiosk for me, she got to a place that she saw my husband and a neighbor and said, "Tell Nikki to call me and to get her deposit because the mall was closed and I wasn't going back to the
Mhm.
kiosk. It was too small." And I said, "Okay." I called her, got the deposit. She says, "Hey, my kiosk was $2,800 for that little cart a month." Okay. Right. Then Christmas, the December month, they add another 1,000 because they feel you're gonna make more money.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
3,600 for, yeah, 3,000 something for the month of December, right? So COVID comes. I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't want to do it again. I meet up with her to get my deposit. She says, "Hey, a store closed. Swarovski Crystal, an actual store in the mall, closed down." I'm like, I don't. Now you think of the mall, how much is that going to cost me? If the cart costs me that,
Right,
what is that space going to cost? So
right,
we go into this store, it's counters there, everything from the store is still there. And so I'm getting nervous, I'm bracing myself to ask the hard question, what is this going to cost?
right.
So we talk it over. She says, "Well, Nikki, it's going to be 3,500." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I was about to open up a space, and actually my church was looking for a space. And I didn't take that space because I told my husband, I believe this is where the church is supposed to be. So I sacrificed the day, my boutique. But because I sacrificed for the church space at that time, God gave me a better opportunity to be in the mall for
Right.
the same amount of money I was going to pay to be in a whole different area to open my boutique.
Um, And
And
that's so powerful because, again, fear. People will
yeah,
let fear stop them from asking the questions. People will let fear, a lot of people would have let fear stop them from even taking that meeting. They would have just said,
mhm,
"There's no way I can afford this. There's no way."
yep,
That's one of those moments where it's a trust and God, trust
yeah,
and let God work it out.
mhm,
But you didn't just sit at home and wait for someone to call you and say, "Hey, I've
no,
got this place." No, you led by faith. You did the work. You
yep,
showed up,
yep,
and God had a blessing in store for you.
yep,
Not only did you have an entire physical location in the mall,
yep,
right? You were getting it for the same price just about that you were
yes,
paying for just the kiosk. That is
yeah.
amazing. That is
Yep.
absolutely amazing, but you also were willing to sacrifice,
I
because
was.
in order for you to do everything that you wanted to do, you had to take a step back in one area so that you
Yep.
could take a step forward in another area. And that's
Mhm.
why I tell you guys that entrepreneurship, it's a journey. It's not a destination, right?
Mhm.
We're already a successful entrepreneur in multiple areas, but there's always at different points in time going to be a little bit of give and take. Like you said, it was
Yeah.
more difficult for you to try to do things with the ministry back when you had three young kids
Yep.
compared to now having three grown kids, right?
Yep.
And one
Mhm.
thing, life is going to keep life in.
It
That's
sure
one
is.
thing for a fact.
For
Life
sure.
is going to keep life in. And while life is life in, you have to just make whatever the most strategic move
Yeah.
is for you right now. But I want to make sure that, I leave you guys with some takeaways as well, because she said a couple of really key things when it came to how you build that community around your business. And that's what really has funded, all of your
Yes.
success. It's by
Mhm.
people really supporting you, you guys. And when we get on social media, a lot of times we forget. We use these terms because they're trending, things like followers and community and branding, but we
Mhm.
forget these are real things that have real meanings, right?
Yep.
I tell my clients all the time, if you want to be engaged, you have to be engaging. If you
Yes.
want people to be liking, commenting, and following on your stuff,
Mhm.
you need to be engaging with your audience in some form or fashion. You need to actually show up. So first, you have to physically show up, right?
Yep.
Don't be afraid to show your face. Put yourself out there. Put yourself out there, not only just by showing up, but also telling your story, letting people know
Mhm.
about all the different things that you have going on. I always recommend for my clients to have a personal brand that they grow, as well as their business
Yep.
brand, because your personal brand is the place that you can talk about all the stuff, all the stuff that you have going on. I do believe that your business page should be niched down into, whatever that audience
Yes.
is, because you don't want to turn away someone who's not interested in this aspect, but
Mhm.
they are interested in this other aspect, right? So you want to make sure your business profile is niche down, but your personal page, it can operate like a business page,
Yep.
right? Turn it into a business page so that you get access to your analytics, but you want to show every aspect of
Yep.
you that you're comfortable with putting out there. I love the quote from Gary Vaynerchuk, who says that he is the most private public person you'll ever come across, right? He's
That's
very
good.
selective in what he puts out there, but he puts a lot out there. That guy is
Mhm.
omnipresent on all platforms at all times, it seems like. You very often, I'm like, when does this guy sleep? I mean, really, he's constantly doing stuff. So you can control the messaging and what you put out there, but you want to let people know what's going on.
Yeah.
How is a person going to support you if you're just focused on building these individual businesses? Build your personal brand, right?
Yeah.
And use that to build your
Mhm.
other areas, your multiple streams of
That's
income. So
right.
that's the second thing. Let people know everything that you have going on. And the third is, don't let fear overwhelm you and prevent you
Mhm.
from doing that next step or taking that next action or adding that next service. Make sure you're fully prepared to do the work, because that's
That's
important too,
right.
right? You
It
can't
sure
just
is.
half do this and half do that. You got to be willing to give it 110%, but do not let fear prevent you from putting yourself into the room where things are going to happen for you. Then you want to make sure that you are also investing into yourself, investing into
That's
your
right.
education, into your success, because you can go the cheaper route, right? Just like you mentioned, you're
Yep.
going with a tax
Mm.
professional, that's the cheapest. Sometimes you
Mhm.
got to do what you got to do, but
Yeah.
sometimes there are negative consequences to
They
that
are.
as well. You can't look at investing into yourself, into your
Mhm.
education, as a cost or a negative thing. It is the cost of doing business. It is what you
It
need to
is.
do in order to reach your goals. And then you need to make sure that you are networking. I am a firm believer
Mhm.
in collaboration over competition any given day. Just like I have
Yes.
this beautiful lady here, she's also a coach, right? And she teaches people on business.
Mm.
I don't believe in competition. I believe that we can both
No.
learn a lot
Yep.
from each other. We wouldn't be having this amazing conversation if it
Mhm.
wasn't for that. So don't focus on if there are too many people in your niche or too many people in your industry. Great, collaborate with them,
That's
right?
right.
Turn on your camera, have a conversation, talk about the highs and the lows of what's going on in your industry. So always look for opportunities for you to put yourself in the room and shake hands and kiss babies and meet people, because you
That's
never
right.
know what's
Never
going
know.
to come from that. So those are
Yeah.
the 5 things that this far I want to make sure that you guys are able to take away from this conversation if you take nothing else. But I do want to pass it back to you, Miss Brown, because there were some
Okay.
things that we talked about before we hit
Yeah.
play that I really want to make sure you guys are able to hear. So tell us a little bit about how COVID impacted your business and how you
Oh
had
my
to kind
goodness.
of transition, in some areas, but in some areas it was actually kind of a plus. So tell us
Yeah.
a little more about
I
that.
was ready, as I shared earlier, I was ready to quit in 2019, my childcare business. I remember my director saying, "So what are we gonna do? We're gonna shut down." I said, "We're gonna keep moving till God tells me to stop." 2020 hit. Like I said, we started our church ministry, then churches. The funny thing about it, we started June 2014, June 14th, 2020 for the church side. And the churches were just starting to open back up. Then prior to that, we got to a place in my daycare where daycares were beginning to close. The government began to shut down in March. Then all of a sudden, we went from 100 students to 20 students in our
Wow.
school. And at the time, I'm like, okay, if I never had money to pay these people now, what am I supposed to do? Um,
Right.
in 2019, I applied for like an SBA loan, couldn't get it. You don't have this, you don't have that. COVID hit is when the PPP loans came out for small businesses. If I was not ready at the time to apply, meaning having my business taxes done by March the 15th, I would have missed out on the opportunity.
Mm,
Okay. So y'all better get your stuff in order when they tell you to get it done,
yeah.
because you never know what you're prepping for. I submitted my application for the PPP loan and we got it. 122,000. I was able to pay my staff. Not one employee left because they were fearful of, being in the something happening to them and all that. Only
Yeah.
one out of the 19 employees left.
Wow.
So it got to a point after that, I'm like, okay, so we got the PPP loan. Then in childcare, they started giving us money because we were open with 20 kids. No employee missed anything. Okay.
Wow.
So because we stayed open, we got extra money because we did not close, because we were essential. As a matter of fact, December of 2020, I partnered with a friend of mine and we opened another daycare center in the whole. So I have 3 total. So we
Okay.
partnered together during COVID in the roughest time ever and took some of the resources we were given and collabed and opened another daycare. We called it Essential Christian Academy because at the time we were essential. So we wanted people to know that, hey, we were
Wait a
essential.
minute. You guys, did y'all catch what she just said? Okay. This lady just said that she was about to close her business.
Yeah,
Oh, she's about to close up the doors. That's too much. I
I
don't
was
want that. I
done.
can't. Okay. She turned that stressful moment
Yeah,
from being stressed out with one and not double. She tripled down, y'all. She
yeah,
tripled down. I love it. I absolutely love it. Okay. I just
yeah.
had to highlight that because that's
So
amazing.
yeah.
That's
So
amazing. So tell me more. Tell me
the
more.
state of Virginia, they were giving childcare centers extra money. So they were like, okay, because you stayed open and you take kids from the state who get like subsidy. So we got all the top of everything that was offered during that time. So then the first PPP loan that we got was forgiven. I don't owe nothing back for that. Then a second round came. I think it was in 2021. And they were like, if you're still struggling in business, blah, 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 apply for another round. Okay. I applied for the next round. We got that money. So to this day, all of my PPP loans are forgiven. But
Wow.
I quit in 2019, I would have never experienced any of the things that benefited my program during COVID. And it was so, during that time, unfortunately, I lost loved ones during COVID,
Mm.
um, friends, so many different people that we knew. And I was afraid to even share that my business was prospering during COVID. And
Mm.
so many people were losing things. Then I would be in different meetings. And then once the things begin to open, and I would go to different events and people would talk about their business. And it was almost like a whisper that we were all saying, this was the best years in business I've ever experienced.
Yeah, and you know what? I can definitely attest to that. And that's why I think it's so important for people to get out of their comfort zone and get out of their circle of
Mm-hmm.
close, tight-knit friends for what you're talking about right now, among many other reasons. That's when I went full time as
Yeah.
a business development specialist, as a marketing agency. I went full time in COVID. I never would have been able to do that before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say never, right? But it just created a perfect playground. There were so many people who needed help and how to figure out how to
Mm-hmm.
reach their clientele now
Yeah.
that they can't go to networking events and do these things. They never even considered social media because they didn't need it before. But now it's a necessity. It's the only way that
Yeah.
they can really reach their target audience. And it created a perfect playground for me to kind of to pull off that corporate handcuff and do my own thing.
That's
And
cool.
I feel so incredibly blessed that I was able to do that. But I do know that feeling when you're like, I really can't, I don't want to rub it in anybody's,
Yeah.
face
Yeah.
about my success. But that's tough at the same time because you're doing great things and you want to
That's right.
else does, too.
Yes.
So it's really important, again, talking back to them 5 points, make sure that you're
Mhm.
out there networking because you want to
Yep.
be around other like-minded people. I want to be in a room where everybody is more successful than
That's
me.
right.
I want to be in a room where you just bought a new car, you just bought a new house,
Hmm.
everybody is doing big things. You
That's
just
right.
or tripled your businesses because
Hmm.
that's nothing but motivation and proof that I can do it too.
Yeah. And I did it in the time that just didn't make sense. For
Mhm.
real. You know what I mean? I was like, are you sure? But I mean, I took advantage of a moment that, like you said, not that it would never come, but I didn't see where it would have come at any
Right,
other time, to be
right,
completely honest. So,
right.
even now, even with the boutique, and so like I got the boutique and that's still hanging in there. And then the other school in another part of Virginia, and we're hanging with that. And then, but now 2023, my savings gone. My landlord went up. I don't know what he was feeling himself. Another 2,000 a month with
Oh,
no
wow.
prep time. It was like, yeah, Nikki, you need to go up. I haven't increased in a long time. And then people didn't have to go back to work, so they were like, oh, we're just gonna keep our kids home. So
Mhm.
my rent increased, my revenue decreased at the beginning of last year. And man, it seemed like everything, I just could never catch a break. And
Mhm.
so this year for 2024, is my theme was walking through the door in 2024. I'm no longer going to be afraid and live in that fear. I got to get back in the grind. I've had my freedom of enjoying life and let the businesses do what they need to do. But now, to bring impact and change and not have a year like I had last year, I have to be present. I got to make change. I can't let people that I put in positions tell me what to do as the business owner.
Right,
So I'm in correction mode right now. So,
right.
as you even talked about earlier, as showing up in your community. So this time I told my landlord I was going to move. I said, I got to get out of here. I can't afford to stay here. Do you know he decreased the rent? He said, well, if you move, what happens to my business? I said, I don't care what happens. But he didn't think I would never leave, right?
Right,
So I
right,
said, no, sir, I must go. I must leave.
right.
And so from that, um, I was able to get another building at a lesser amount, but then I was concerned about, can I take infants? I'm not sure. So all
Mhm.
these things. So he decreased. I said, well, let me ride him one more year. See me, he decreased my rent. But I'm going to try and get into this other space that's much less, but I'm not sure if they'll let me have infants. And so I'm like, and I
Right.
also have another school. So I already had two in my local area. And the
Right.
smaller one, I want to move into this new space. But you know what I did differently? I now am asking people, hey, if you would like to sponsor a classroom, if you would like to be a part of the
Mhm.
Nikki's Christian Academy, where we are a parent partner, we want to help that mom who's a stay at home mom who's fearful of letting her child go back into childcare. So I had to rebuild, give them a different spill, especially to that mom who's on Zoom calls all day and the child is running around. Maybe you
Mhm.
don't need 5 days, but now you need three. So I am rebranding, remarketing the structure of my business, but I'm also present. So
Mhm.
even in that,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is my season to be present. I now have to protect my legacy, my wealth, my family. That if I want to grow, I got to now show up, get stuff back in order the way that I should have been all this time. So yeah, 2020, 21, 22 was great, but 23, I don't know what it is. It seems like every 3 years we get that slap. Like, oh, okay, we
Yeah,
back
a little
again.
bit, a
But
little
how
bit, because
can
I
we
can
keep
say that.
making the time? But it's like,
It was, because randomly
yeah.
COVID for business was pretty good, but 2023, and you know what I think it was, and this is just my own personal opinion. I really think in 2023, inflation hit harder than the news is
Oh,
telling people.
what you
And
say?
this
Yes.
grocery math ain't mathing, this mortgage
Mm-hmm.
math ain't mathing, this gas math ain't mathing.
Yeah.
A lot of math is not mathing when
You're
it
right.
comes to the the day-to-day, month-to-month
Mm-hmm.
life expenses, just regular life expenses. And when it comes to, being in a position where you got to pick between, paying for food or where I
Yeah.
live and other expenses, you start trying to figure out what you can cut off.
Yeah.
I guess I don't need this and I don't need that.
Yeah.
So
I
that
just
that's
been
just
that.
my personal opinion of why I
You're
think that's
absolutely
been
right.
happening. But there's another thing that you did that was really important that I do want to highlight for you guys. She said she is in the process of rebranding. You guys,
Mhm.
you cannot be so strict and stringent that you're like, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I want to do, this is me. Because what you're doing, you're talking about me, I. And
Mm-mm.
unless you're trying to start a business and sell to only
You? No, ma'am.
you're not going to be able to be successful with that. You have to remember your business is all about service. We are all in the
Yeah.
service business, period. Any business that you have, you are in the service business and you are also a marketer, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
Those things you
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to do as an entrepreneur. Period. No way around that. And by knowing her audience and paying attention to the life
Yeah.
changes that her
Mm-hmm.
audience is currently going through, she is now recrafting her message
Yeah.
so that she can speak to what they want to hear, right? It's
Yeah.
not about why is she doing that? Well, yes, because of the service, but more
Mm-hmm.
importantly, because it's her duty, her responsibility, and her obligation to her family to make sure
Yeah.
that her business does not go under, to make sure that her business is able to not only survive, but thrive. And the only way to do that is
Yeah.
to make sure that you are properly servicing your community, the community that you built
Yeah.
around your business. You have to listen to them. You have to see what it is that they need. What are things that are
Mm-hmm.
going on? Don't worry about what Joe or Jim down the street are doing, right?
Yeah.
Don't try to follow these trends of services and offers that people are doing. Really listen to your community and see how can I take all these things that are popular right now
That's
and how
right.
can I meet the needs best of my
Mm-hmm.
target audience, of my client, right?
Yeah.
That's what you need to focus on. And as long as you put that first, I promise you,
Mm-hmm.
promise you, you will be able to thrive in business and not just survive.
That's
Thank
right.
you so much for giving
Yeah.
us all of those amazing gems. This
Yeah.
has been
Thank
an
you.
incredible conversation. I know if nobody else took anything from this, I did. Okay. I am so inspired by your story and to see how far you've come in this well over 25 years. I think you said you're having your 32nd
31. 31
31
in February. Yep.
years.
Mm-hmm.
31 years of entrepreneurship from then to now.
Yep.
Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that journey. And I know there are definitely people out there watching that want to connect with you. So tell everybody how they can connect with you on social.
Yes, you can go to on Facebook, Nicole L. Brown, and you can find me there. On Instagram, Nicole L. Brown Coaching, and then Nikki B Jules if you want to shop my boutique. And then Nikki's Christian Daycare if you know people in Virginia that need daycare. But you can always email at info@NicoleLBrown.com for whatever you may need. So but LaShay, you have been an awesome host. I wish you much success in your podcast. I am like your beautiful smile, your personality, how you're a great host. You pull everything out with all the information that you need. So be proud of yourself, girl. I'm excited. I can't wait to see all of them. You have a fan for life. I love it. You've done an excellent job.
Thank you so much. I promise you guys, I did not tell her to say
No,
that.
she did not. She did not. You know, I love when people just love what they do, but you made it exciting. I love to talk about things to make it exciting. I don't like to be on podcasts where the host is so depressing and so mild tone, you know.
Yeah.
So you like brought it. So thank you for making this interview so enjoyable. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, you
Yes.
guys, she's gonna make me cry.
Oh,
I'm so excited. You know what? And here's why I'm so excited because everything that I'm telling you guys to do, I have been on the opposite end of that, right? Like
yep.
I've made all the mistakes. I've done all of those things. I let fear, doubt, perfectionism, all these different things stop me from doing things that I'm really interested in, things that I'm really passionate about. And the further down that road I got, the less I enjoyed work. It
Mm-hmm.
became, less of this enjoyable journey that I was excited about and almost like back in the days of working the 9 to 5,
Yeah.
I guess I gotta hammer out this report. I
Right.
guess I gotta get this content calendar done. And really taking that time to get refocused about what are my passions and stopping the procrastination. Stop
Yeah.
waiting on it to be perfect. I literally sat down and I said, you know what? No, I'm not going to wait until I have all the beautiful things, all the beautiful websites, all the beautiful documents, all the beautiful automations. I'm not going to do that. I am going to go
Yeah.
on my profile and I'm going to reach out to the entrepreneurs that I think are doing phenomenal things in their community,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to invite them to come on and share their story, right? Because in the time that I am procrastinating, there is somebody out there who is struggling, who needs that boost, that inspiration, who needs to see that there are people out there just like them, regular,
Yeah.
everyday people, not these crazy superhuman, supermodel, BBL babes, out
Mm-hmm.
there on Instagram telling you post 5 times a week and you're going to
Yeah.
blow down and it's going to be, I mean, it's not a thing, you guys.
No.
It's not a thing. And if you've tried that and it's not working for you, it's not you, it's the roadmap. That's
Yeah.
not the roadmap. So I am so glad that you were one of the first interviews that we've done on this,
Thank
because this
you.
was an incredible conversation. It's a topic that I definitely preach to my coaching students all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
you were the best case study for that. You are
Thank
a
you.
phenomenal woman, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, a phenomenal mother. The fact that you have shown your kids that entrepreneurship is an option in life, because
Mm-hmm.
our school systems, let's be honest, they fail our kids at that. They tell
Yeah.
kids to college, get all this debt, get a job, and somehow it'll all work out. But that's not necessarily the real path to any level of financial freedom. We don't
Yeah.
live in a time where, you can have one household income and that's going to be enough and support the entire household. It's just not the case. I'm a firm believer that even if you do work a 9 to 5, you should have some type of side
That's
hustle
right.
in order
Mhm.
for you to truly be financially free. Why? Because that job can fire you at any given moment. And it doesn't matter how
Mm-mm.
great of an employee you are. It really doesn't. And they say all the time on the news that the average American household cannot afford a $500 emergency.
That's true. I believe
That
it.
is absolute facts. And that is sad and that
Mhm.
breaks my heart. So I feel like it is my duty, my responsibility, and my obligation to help you guys get out of that situation. And I'm sorry, but your job is not going to do it. I'm not saying you
Mhm.
quit your job so that you can be a full-time entrepreneur,
Yeah.
but you need to find that something that God has placed inside of
Yeah.
you that you can do, and it can bring in an additional stream of
That's
income for
right.
you and your family, so that if a $500 emergency happens, instead of you being stressed out, you can instead thank the Lord
Yeah.
for you not having to
Mhm.
worry about where that money is going to come from because it's already in your savings, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
with that, I will
Yes.
say goodbye, you guys. Thank you so much for an amazing show. And until next
Yes.
time, bye, my cherished loves.
Bye.